Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. This is Audrey Russo, President and CEO of the Pittsburgh Technology Council, and we have entered, I don't know, we must be in our 6th month, 1 week of doing business as usual. I'm here with Jonathan Kirsting. He's Vice President of all things media and marketing at the Tech Council. He's going to be monitoring the chat, and he's just our partner in crime in all things that we do around exposure and visibility. So I want to give a shout out before I introduce our guests today. I want to give a shout out to Huntington Bank. They are long friends of ours, and they have helped right from the onset in terms of COVID, but they've been partners of ours for a long time, including Tech Vibe Radio. And when we used to go to the streets, Jonathan, you remember that? We used to go to the streets and do Tech Vibe neighborhood tour. And right, we used to do that back in the day. So anyway, today we're pretty thrilled. Today is our 126th session of business as usual. We launched it at the beginning of the pandemic. I actually thought it was only going to be for 2 weeks, and here we are on our 126th day. And we are thrilled to be able to have the guests that we're having today, as we do every day. But I'm excited about having a chance to talk to the folks from the ballet, because they have been impacted just as many have, but the cultural arts are a pretty important piece of the fabric of our region. And it's really, and they've been longtime members of the Tech Council, and we've been partners for a long time on all things. So we've muted your microphones, but that doesn't stop you from being a part of the chat. And we are gonna jump in, and I'm going to introduce today Ferris. He's the Executive Director of the Pittsburgh Ballet, and Susan Jaffe, the Artistic Director. So good afternoon, and I would love for both of you to introduce yourselves, share some information about the journey, and talk about, you know, the look and feel of what's happening right now with the ballet and all that's changed. So I'm gonna pass the baton to Harris, who's a dear friend of the tech communities, and welcome him to business as usual. So hi, Harris.
Hey, Audrey. Hey, thanks for having us. Yeah, it's hard to believe that the season that got canceled under COVID, beginning in March of 2020, was our 50th anniversary season. Wow. So it was already poised and loaded to do major things, including we're going to be going to New York, to the Joyce Theater in New York in April. Of course, we had our 50th anniversary gala that wound up going online. But all throughout that, keeping our school going, but most importantly, welcoming a new artistic director, which is something that doesn't happen every year. In fact, I think it's been 27 years since PBT had a new artistic director. So there was a lot of enthusiasm to welcome Susan Jaffe, despite all the constraints that we had to work with. So we're excited, though, that we were able to continue programming, moving to virtual, and then recently back to live performances, thanks to the acquisition of a major performing arts venue, a mobile performing arts venue that we're sharing with our other cultural brethren in the cultural district to put on live performances. And we just this past weekend, we had the Sam 450 set up in our parking lot here at Pittsburgh Ballet Theatre. So this is a new venture for us, kind of innovative, but I'm sure that Susan could talk more about the programming that she put on it and what she's been doing up until now, having just arrived amidst COVID-19.
So let's just pause for 1 second. It's been 6 months. What immediately did you have to do back in March? Let's just talk about what happened back then and all that you've done to pivot.
Well, so first of all, of course, we had to cancel seasons. We had to talk to subscribers and get a good line of communication going with the donors that had been sponsoring events that now had to be postponed. At that time, we were just talking postponed. And then figure out how we could move our 50th anniversary festival gala that was co-chaired by Art and Greta Rooney to a virtual event. And we had a great turnout for that. It was the first time, and we even had our orchestra perform, each orchestra member from their home, and then it was all pieced together to play the waltz from Sleeping Beauty. And I think it brought tears to people's eyes, because at that point, when we did that, it was already June by the time we pulled that together, and the gala was supposed to have been in April. But to see all the players, and one of the themes for our 50th anniversary season has been to establish a long-term fund for our orchestra. And so people made donations online, and we wound up doing a good job of fundraising for that. Then again, we needed to move our school to virtual. And we arranged for resilient flooring to be going to students' homes and to dance and our company dancers so that they could work from home. We moved the dancer weeks, our AGMA dancers, we sort of advanced their weeks and moved them into the June timeframe in hopes that we would be able to do some programming. And indeed, by that time, Susan was fully on board, and she figured out how to, and she can explain how she managed to get AGMA, which is the musicians union that our dancers are members of, to agree. We got the first waiver to return to work under COVID of any of the AGMA companies in the US. And that, of course, the site that they returned to was actually Hartwood Acres. So maybe Susan can explain that project. It was a great project.
So immediately though, Harris, you've been at the helm for how long now of the ballet?
14 years.
14 years. So you've obviously never been through anything like this. And, you know, none of us have. But we count on the cultural arts to be an important part of the ecosystem, of the tech ecosystem, of the new world, as well as, you know, your long-standing subscribers. So how are you doing through all of this? How is Harris doing?
I'm exhilarated because, you know, with adversity comes opportunities. And you know, we've always wanted to be a little bit more in the digital space. And, you know, Audrey, we've spoken. Right. I mean, there'll be a day when we'll be dancing with holograms as long as you keep ahead of the tech category. So we're looking for,
right.
But, you know.
Yeah, Harris and I have talked about that for a long time.
So, you know, there's always room for technology to play a bigger role, and certainly for us. And we had to outfit our studios with cameras, with large screens, the video robots, as we call them, so that our teachers could conduct classes in our studios, but send them into the homes and watch up to 25 students and give corrections at a time. So that just that alone is the technology that we'll use in the future. But then also just streaming, you know, streaming content. Not that we've figured out how to monetize that yet, but nevertheless, we've managed to keep our patrons engaged and content going out and our dancers working. So that's been important. But the most recent thing that I'm excited about is the idea that the Art Mellon Foundation came forward with an opportunity to apply for innovative funds that would not only help us navigate through the pandemic, but how would we reposition the arts post-pandemic in an adaptive way, because the world will have changed. Mm-hmm. The way we see the world has changed is access. More people need access to the arts and the performing arts. Its elevating and inspiring role needs to be enhanced. And technically, how could we do that technologically? Well, that was the mobile performing arts unit. And this is something that will now literally get legs into the future. We'll be able to deploy not just the Pittsburgh Ballet Theatre, but the PSO who joined us, and the Pittsburgh Opera, the CLO, August Wilson Center, all performed on the stage as the trial balloon. It was a big success. Again, there weren't that many people watching, but if you take a look at some of the slides that I think we might be showing, yeah. We'll see some pictures of this SAM 450 that's made by Stage Line out of Montreal. And we are it's the largest stage of its kind. Pittsburgh Ballet Theatre, Pittsburgh Cultural Trust is the proud owners of the only unit of this size in the country right now.
And so just tell everyone how long the Pittsburgh Ballet has been around.
We just celebrated 50 years. This was our 50th anniversary season.
Wow. And the structure of the ballet and the relationship to the Cultural Trust?
So we're a resident company, the Cultural Trust, along with the Opera and the CLO. And we are basically anchor tenants. We produce programming 5 shows a year generally at the Benedum or at the August Wilson Center. There's sometimes one at the August Wilson Center. You know, our Nutcracker alone plays some 35,000 people. Over the course of a season, Pittsburgh Ballet Theatre has the lights on in the cultural district for equivalent of about 2 months worth of programming over a year. So I'm close to 20% of the nights that there's programming, it's PBT. So what we need to do is we need to keep that engine going and bringing people down to the cultural district and continue to contribute to the $2.38 billion economic impact that the cultural performing arts have on this community here.
Well, we're going to pass the baton and we're going to introduce and meet Susan Jaffe. She's the Artistic Director, and welcome her to Pittsburgh. And then we'll get back to Harris. So Susan.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? Welcome. Tell us a little bit about you, when you landed here, where you came from, what your work is, and just welcome to Pittsburgh.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you. I danced as a principal dancer and an international dancer with American Ballet Theatre for 22 years. And after that, I retired from dancing. I opened a dance school. I then actually went back to ballet theater as a coach. And then I became the Dean of Dance at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts for 8 years. And from there, I came to Pittsburgh. So I am here. I've had a deep background in dance and also just in organizing a dance institution like at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. So it's been really wonderful to come here because things that I did at the university have also translated very well into PBT, and it's great to be here. I wanted to say a little bit about my first entry into PBT. I was still living in North Carolina. I hadn't officially started as the artistic director, but when Harris told us that we had this opportunity by KDKA, their sister station, Pittsburgh CW, to do a performance at Heartwood Acres that they would film, because we weren't allowed to actually be on that stage, but we were allowed to perform on the grounds, and that it was going to air when we were going to perform August 16th. That immediately I had the idea to do A Midsummer Night's Dream, because what wonderful background could you have but the beauty of Heartwood Acres in the background. So I took a 50-minute ballet and I condensed it into 13 minutes of the overture. And I storyboarded it out because I was still living in Winston-Salem, and I divvied out each of the characters to 4 dancer choreographers in the company. And so 4 choreographers actually choreographed it with this storyboard. And it was even filmed while I was still in Winston. But it ended up being just incredibly charming. And in fact, you can see that performance still on our website. And also, as I was researching Midsummer Night's Dream, I saw that some companies had just a little synopsis, verbal synopsis. And so the idea of having children dressed up as fairies on Heartwood Acres grounds, telling the story of A Midsummer Night's Dream verbally before you actually saw the ballet, was also extremely charming. So that was even before I arrived here in Pittsburgh. My moving company dropped off my stuff on July 1st. And by July 3rd, I was in the offices and starting up, this whole new life, which I'm so happy to be here, I have to say. And Harris had been talking about the SAM 450 for a while and was in the process of fundraising for that SAM 450. And the idea of the open air performances to come around Labor Day was available, and that we had the opportunity financially to do that. So I started dreaming of the programs, and we did very short programs, actually, just, I called them COVID-friendly performances because they were short enough that people didn't have to worry about too much social distancing and not using public facilities, etc. So there were 45, 50-minute performances, and we did AB programs every day. And we ended up doing 8 performances. So that was really a tremendous amount of fun. We social distanced our audiences in 12-foot pods, and only people who either cohabitate or families could be in those pods together. And there was a lot of cleaning in between. You know, there was a lot of safety protocols in place so that not only were our dancers safe, but so were our audience members. Additionally, I was very fortunate that many people, dancers in the company, actually like each other, and they're either married or they cohabitate together. So I had 8 couples to work with, and we had 8 pas de deux, which means dance for 2. So they were able to dance together without masks. So that was really fortunate for our audiences, because most of dance, you know, to see the facial expressions is really important. Actually, I don't know if any of you can see Erin Straczynski from PBT. The background behind her is the Sam 450 in our parking lot. Yeah, there it is. And it was huge, and it was amazing to see this gigantic thing come up in our parking lot. And because it was in our parking lot, we could really regulate it and keep everybody safe. So it was a really important opportunity. Oh, yeah, here it is. Here's the Sam 450. This is from the view from the bleachers. We actually had built up bleachers so that our audience could see better.
Okay, and so were people outside in chairs, or were they in cars?
They were outside, they were in chairs. You can see them in their pods. And, and even if it got too sunny, we even put up umbrellas so that people could stay in the shade.
Wow.
So yeah, it was.
And so this is right in front of your building, right? Down on Smallman Street?
Yes, absolutely.
Beautiful.
Uh-huh.
Beautiful.
Liberty Avenue.
Wow. And
This is a photograph. Well, this is a photograph of Heartwood Acres. This is not of the Sam 450. This is our performances that we do every year, but we did not get to do this year. So as you can see, the audiences out there normally, under normal circumstances, get to sit together. But this is what open air series looks like. Right. And what we're thinking about for future programs for the Sam 450, where we can take that stage into multiple different parks or places around Pittsburgh, anywhere really, and be able to do these open air series performances. So it's really giving us a lot of freedom to be able to program whenever we really feel like it. Of course, the weather has to comply, but yeah.
Well, what are you thinking about for the fall and winter?
So, well, we finished our open air series. We do have a very exciting performance coming up on October 31st. And because of all the details not being able to be spoken about just yet, I can't give you as much information as I want to, but it is very exciting. And we're actually sort of nailing down the exact location today. So things have been, you know, I think coming in as an artistic director, hitting the ground running and just figuring all this out in a very short time crunch it's just been a lot. We're also doing an at-home experience version of the Nutcracker. Because of the theater closures, we're not able to go into the theaters. And so there will be a performance that will really just bring the magic of the Nutcracker into the homes. And also because we have a really important educational part of our component to PBT, led by Katie Gigler, we are going to have an educational component of the Nutcracker for the children in the community. So it'll be somewhat of a, you know, hands-on sort of interactive experience of the Nutcracker while they're at home watching. It won't be the full Nutcracker, but it will be, you will get the full experience of the Nutcracker as you see it. So we'll be busy actually filming that starting next week. And
So
finish
how are the dancers? I'm asking both of you. Harris has been there for a long time. How are the dancers, and what about the school where students come from all over to attend? Can you, either one of you, talk about that? Or Susan, can you talk about that?
Yes, well, one of the first things that I did when I got here was to be introduced to our AGMA, which is our the Dancers Union, American Guild of Musical Artists, AGMA representative, and working with him, with our HR director, with Ferris, with Jay, and myself, and the dancer representatives on how do we bring dancers back into the studios safely, which was, I would have to say, all in, it was about 3 months of discussion and then nailing it all down, because dancers, as you all know, are athletes, and we cannot abide by the 6-foot distance. We actually have to have a 12-foot distance because of the amount of air coming out of an athlete. So it was really a 12-foot distance. And then also we worked with our engineers for our HVAC systems and medical doctors to ensure or to nail down exactly how much time we need in between cohorts. We put dancers in cohorts so that the air would exchange completely and be clean, so that it would be safe for the next cohort to go into that studio, as well as, you know, washing down floors. One of my job descriptions now is floor washer. You know, I mean, you do what you have to do these days, right, and cleaning everything. So it's a 45 minutes space between rehearsals and between class and rehearsals. And dancers, the union told me I could have 10 people in a studio at the same time according to our measurements. But I said, let's start with 5, because I thought the dancers were very squeamish. And then once they got here, after about 2 weeks, they started asking if they could increase their cohorts, because some of them were in studios, and because there wasn't enough space, some of them were at home on Zoom, which is what the dance world did within 2 weeks of the pandemic closing everything down. The dance world went on Zoom and started teaching classes on Zoom. Yeah. And so, yeah, and so we even had, for the open air series, I zoomed in choreographers to teach pas de deux to our dancers and coach. So we had 3 different choreographers and stagers zooming in on, as Harris was saying, these gigantic video robots, and able to see the dancers and give them corrections and teach them how to do things. So, you know, it was a really, it was hard to get all of this together, because it's a new world, and just like going into the digital world, you know, I looked at Harris and said, who knew the dance world was suddenly going to go digital? But here we are. And but now the dancers are increasing their cohorts. We're going to try to get 10 people in the studio at once, because of the filming of the Nutcracker and because of this new up and coming performance on Halloween. We need to start increasing those. But they know the drill, they know the protocols, and it has kept everyone safe. So we're taking temperatures and all of that. So there's just all of pretty much what everybody else is doing.
So welcome to Pittsburgh, right? So I have like a cartoon in my head that I'm imagining that there are northern cities all around the world that have figured out how to do outdoor performances, right? Through heaters and through lighting. And am I hallucinating? Is that possible, that we could have a Nutcracker or something similar to that while we're sitting outside and it's warm and there's heaters and we can actually experience it? Or do we think that the winter season will really bring a little bit more digitization to what you folks are planning?
There's definitely talk about tenting the SAM 450, right, that these are still concepts, yes. And as we all know, the world is saying is as close to being outdoors as you can in terms of the air circulation, right, safest place to be. And yes, and then Audrey, there's also the possibility that, you know, stage has wheels. There are other parts of the country that are warm in the winter
Right.
By drift.
Right. So it could be that you have some mobility in terms of your
That's the point.
capability.
I
So
mean, yes.
you can be there doing that, and then we can work with you for all the jobs that we have available here. And we can tag team that so people can understand the innovation in tech. And you're out there helping us hustle for some of the job opportunities that are here in Pittsburgh.
We could. I mean, it works. I mean, cultural diplomacy has been known to work through
Right.
all kinds of administrations, and we definitely sign us up. We want to spread the word
Right.
that it is a cultural city,
Right.
beyond any of our size, well beyond others.
So keep us connected as you're
Let us know
thinking
when you're
about
taking
your
off.
own mobility. It might be something fun, right, Jonathan?
I think this is a fantastic idea. When you guys are packing it up and going someplace south, let us know. We'll give you some good materials, and let's get this going.
We'll
It's gonna
do
be fun.
we'll do some virtual job fairs while they're down there,
We're building some bridges, man. It's gonna be cool.
right? So listen,
We-
the ballet has been a tremendous asset to our community. Susan, you will know that. You probably noticed that already. Harris has been at the helm of this and has been a great partner to the tech community and vice versa, right from the onset. So what do you both want to say? How can people become involved? How can our members, how can the tech community become involved and be supportive? Tell us.
We love to have ideas about locations where the SAM 450 can go. We also, oftentimes there's entry-level ways in which corporate sponsors can get involved with content, because the world is our oyster as far as acquiring new kinds of works and innovative works. And so it's not always Swan Lake. I mean, Susan can tell you, she has the best Rolodex in the industry as far as works that are being done in Europe and being done in Far East. And I know she's got on her wish list some very, very exciting, innovative choreographers that are stretching the boundaries of what dance does. And when you start talking about stretching the boundaries in the arts, you're talking to the tech community is a great place to be looking for partners. Wouldn't you say, Susan?
Absolutely. I mean, I think there'd be so much that we could do together, including just, the creativity of what is actually seen up on stage. I mean, there is tremendous possibility of what we could do together, and bringing in new works from famous choreographers, and then how does that look up on stage, I think would be truly exciting. It would be a dream come true for me, for sure.
And the other part of that is just what you were referring to earlier, which is cultivation. You bring people to Pittsburgh and you want to bring in your investment capital and you want to bring in your startup community. And what better thing to do? I mean, I think when they were going to try to bring Amazon here, I guess it was, one of the first things they looked at is let's show them the arts. Let's really show what Pittsburgh has to offer in the arts. And with people being able to work remotely more and more, they can go anywhere they want. So why not pick a place that's got the kind of legacy in the arts that we do have here, right here in Pittsburgh.
Absolutely. So our time has come to an end. I am thrilled to kick off this Monday with everyone talking about the ballet, and welcome Susan to Pittsburgh. And thank you, Harris, for you being an entrepreneur. You really are. And the tech community cares about the work that you're doing. So if you can go to pbt.org. There's lots of ways to find out what they're up to, whether it's through support, whether it's through any kind of ideas. They're very open, very collaborative, and we have found them to be great partners over the years. So on that note, I want to thank Ferris and Susan Jaffe for joining us, and stay tuned. We are going to be watching you, and we're going to come up with a whole bunch of ideas. So have an amazing day. Thank you, Jonathan, for being here, and thank you everyone for joining us. And there have been great links that have been put out there, but you can also go to pbt.org. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Everyone here tomorrow.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.